So I'm just going to vamp for just a few seconds, just because Restream does seem to need a few seconds to get rolling. Get a rolling start here. But now comes the part of the show where I got to get the juice a flowing and say,
Do it.
Hi, I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema. If you aren't familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a film analysis podcast wherein we introduce each other to films, expand our cinematic horizons, and, in essence, catch up on our cinema. So, it is the month of March 2025, and it is once again that very special time of the month wherein we do our very special Tales from the Shelf episode. And in joining me in this endeavor, I have my good buddy Brad from the Cinema Speak podcast. How's it going, Brad?
It's going great, Trevor. I mean, should we offer a peek behind the curtain here just a little bit and say that we are having a marathon session tonight? This is our second recording we've done. We're just, and I tell you, I'm warmed up. I'm ready to go. This might be our best Tales from the Shelf ever. We'll see if I can sustain it, but right now I'm flying.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that inside baseball there, Brad. Yeah, we just recorded an hour and a half long discussion, so if our throats are a little bit hoarse, that might be why. But we are very well warmed up. We should be ready to go. So without further ado, let's get to it. So you may have noticed, by the way, on Brad's webcam feed there, Brad at the Cinema Speak. He does have his own podcast. It does drop on Thursdays of each week. So if you'd like to check out Brad's podcast, you can find him pretty much everywhere podcasts are found. He's a great podcaster. Big fan.
Thank you. Right back at you, bud.
But yeah, so if you're not familiar, dear listeners and hopefully viewers, with what a Tales from the Shelf episode entails, essentially what we're here to do today is talk about our respective movie collections. As you may have noticed in the background of our respective webcam feeds, both Brad and I own quite a lot of movies, mostly DVDs, Blu-ray, and 4K discs. We're not tape guys, not yet anyway. Give us a few decades or something, but we're mostly disc guys. Every month we get together to swap some stories about our collecting habit, and every month we try to have an overarching theme, kind of guiding the discussion as best we can. So, being as we didn't really have a good idea for a theme this month, we deferred to the long-standing tradition of falling back to the alphabet. When in doubt, go back to the alphabet. So today we've reached the H's. So we're going to be talking about movies from our collections that begin with the letter H. So I've titled this episode A Horde of H's. Basically, all we did as far as the selection process goes is if it begins with the letter H, it qualifies. It can be brought to the discussion. We're basically just going to play show and tell with our movies. And as is customary with me hosting the program, I'm going to ask, hey, Brad, how about you lay down in front of that oncoming bus and, just let it run right over you, buddy. Let it back right up over you. What's your first H pick?
Well, I'm kind of breaking the rules a little bit on this first H pick because I think when you were explaining it, you said specifically films that start with the letter H. And generally, yes, that is how it is done. But this one is a little different. No, it is not a TV show either. This one, and I put it under H. I think that's where it should go. You may disagree. I don't know. That could be part of the discussion here. But I have two Alfred Hitchcock collections here. Put them under H for Hitchcock. Both of these Blu-ray only. I know this set, I don't know if it's the exact set, but these films have been put out on 4K. I only have them on Blu-ray. But in this set, this is kind of like the like Mount Rushmore, even though there's 5 of them. You got Rear Window, Vertigo, North by Northwest, Psycho, and The Birds. I would probably say his 5 most famous movies. And this one, we have Notorious, Rebecca, and Spellbound. So all lumped together. I'm generally not the biggest fan of sets that do this, but I don't know. I don't have as much of an issue with it for Hitchcock because he is so notorious, similar to the film Notorious, and I just think as a set it works well, especially like now getting into 4K. I'm willing to save money wherever I can. So, buying a group of films together under the Hitchcock banner, that's totally fine by me. But yeah, I mean, like, what can you say? He's obviously one of the greatest and most influential filmmakers ever. In my opinion, if I had to pick a favorite movie of his, it would be very close between Psycho and North by Northwest. But I mean, all the movies in this set specifically are great. I do really like Rear Window. Vertigo is one that I know a lot of people. I think I don't know if it was AFI or whatever, but some Sight and Sound maybe for a while there it was like the number one movie of all time in some circles. And I don't know, it's never been quite as high for me. And to be honest, I just feel like I'm missing something. I just don't get it, maybe. But it is great. And The Birds is not as high art, but it is a lot of fun. And yeah, I am a big fan of the guy's work. Even some of his films not in these sets I own separately. Like I think I own Strangers on a Train. Rope is another one I love. And yeah, he's just got so many great films under his belt. And there's so many that I have yet to see as well. I think I have not even seen Spellbound out of this set here. So there's one right there that I need to pop on. But yeah, I mean, I could go on and on all day about go into each of these films, but I'll leave it there for now. I'll let you come back with your retort. I know you're a notorious Hitchcock hater, so I want to see how you respond to this. You have 2 minutes, Trevor.
We need to have a moderator here who's completely a wet noodle and can't stand up for himself or put anyone in their place.
Yeah.
Santino, get in here. Yeah, so Brad has Hitchcock box sets, which I will allow. That is an H pick. That is how you would shelf that.
Would you would put them under H, right? Is that what you would do?
Yeah. The point I was going to get to is that Brad has Hitchcock. I have Stallone and Seagal. And yes, I do shelve them that way with that person's last name. Being as that's loud and proud on the box. It says Stallone or Seagal or something like that. But yeah, Hitchcock, his reputation precedes him. His style precedes him. I've always enjoyed how a lot of his movies tend to end with like a completely apeshit, totally bonkers series of events at the end. Like he goes big at the end of some of his movies. And I feel like, maybe a little bit of a lost art when it comes to cinema. Because there's plenty of like action blockbuster movies that try to go balls out crazy by the time they get to the final reel of the film or something. But it just comes across as like false. Like it feels like a betrayal, or it feels like flimsy, like it was tacked on there or something. It always feels kind of intentional, where it's just like, things have been ratcheting up and ratcheting up and ratcheting up. It's like it's cathartic. It feels kind of right, especially with some of his movies that have, a little bit louder performance style and things of that nature. But I can't claim to be an expert on the man. I haven't seen that many of his movies. I've done a fair amount of research on him because he's a fascinating individual with a fascinating filmography. But yeah, like you say, The Birds it's somewhat of a more lowbrow movie among his picks, but I don't think of him as like entirely being a highbrow guy. He made movies for the masses in a lot of respects, but Strangers on a Train occupies a special place in my heart. It sounds like that's not included in those boxes, but you said you own that one separately, right?
I think so. I definitely have seen it within the last 5 or 6 years, but I'm pretty sure I own it.
Yeah, it's a great one. I actually watched that one for the first time with my friends at the time. It was just days before they got married. So his fiance at the time, they're now married with a kid. She was a huge Hitchcock fan. Like she actually is like a connoisseur. She actually knows his stuff inside and out. And she was very insistent. Like, if you're going to be staying with us, you're watching a Hitchcock film. And I was like, whoa, okay. Nice. It's like you're watching hockey and you're watching Hitchcock. This is your kind of gal, bro.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But yeah, she picked Strangers on a Train, and I was excited because I had not seen that prior to that. But I was raised on Throw Mama from the Train, Brad. Have you seen that one?
Oh, so you thought this was like a prequel to that?
Yes. No, Stranger on a Train is directly referenced in that film.
Oh, okay.
Like that's actually how the plot of that film gets going. I take it you haven't seen Throw Mama from the Train?
No, not that I am aware of, at least.
Highly recommended. I think Danny DeVito directed it, and I've always compared he and Ben Stiller. Like
Hmm.
stylistically, as directors, I see some similarities. There's a darkness to their character that I think is kind of fascinating. Anyway, it's a Danny DeVito's kind of take on Strangers on a Train a little bit. Like that's actually how the plot of it gets going. Is that a person sees that movie, takes the wrong message from it, and tries to carry it out in real life.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and Billy Crystal's in it, and I don't remember the woman's name, but amazing face for film, amazing voice for film. She was like the villain in the Goonies and a Deadly Friend.
Oh,
She's the
yeah.
gal that gets her head blowed up.
Yep, yep.
She plays Danny DeVito's mom in it. My dad, he's still alive, but that was a dad movie. He was like, "Throw Mama from the Train's great. You got to see this, son." I was like, "What the fuck is this?" But it stuck with me. Good,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
not every movie that my dad had me watch when I was a kid stuck with me, but Throw Mama from the Train, that worked for me. That resonated. Pope of Greenwich Village didn't do shit for me. Throw Mama from the Train, though, that stuck with me. But
Is
I don't
there
actually own any Hitchcock movies, by the way.
uh
Uh?
that is surprising. You should get on that. But is there any reference in Throw Mama from the Train to the moment in Strangers on a Train, which is maybe I don't love Strangers from on a Train. It's not
Strangers on a Plane.
Strangers on a Plane. But it might have one of my all-time favorite Hitchcock moments. The moment where they're at the tennis match and the whole crowd is following the ball, and the
Oh,
main villain is just staring directly across the court at our protagonist. That is an amazing moment. Is that referenced at all in Throw Mama from the Train?
I don't believe it is. I remember being surprised by the tennis sequence, but that tennis sequence in that movie is a all timer for
Oh,
sure.
it's so good.
It's
But
so good.
yeah, I'm a pretty big Hitchcock fan. I mean, this is a pretty nice set. Like I'd like to upgrade to the 4K.
Yeah.
But no, it's pretty good. It's pretty sexy. Oh, well, that's interesting that the disc isn't
Oh,
in there.
what
But
what happened?
Ugh,
What happened,
I
Brad?
don't know, what disc are we missing
There's a
here.
disc missing. It's not right.
We are
Lizzie,
missing
Lizzie, Lizzie. There's a disc missing.
Rear Window. We're missing Rear Window. I
My
wonder.
wallet is gone. My wallet is gone.
I think I might know where it is. I think it's at my parents' house.
I mean, actually, that sounds like something that you would do: is bring a Hitchcock movie to mom and dad's.
But this is just the reason now I have to upgrade to the 4K rather than spend time looking for the disc. Just upgrade.
It's like, oh, I lost a disc. I better buy a whole new one.
Yeah.
Better buy a whole new set. Better upgrade it.
Yeah,
Are you gonna be able
exactly.
to sleep tonight, Brad, knowing that box is missing a disc?
I might be calling my mom once this is done. I might be calling her and say, "Hey, run to the basement. Is this disc by the Blu-ray player?"
Okay, well, that's probably enough Hitchcock talk. So I'm gonna do what I like to do on this show, and pivot to something maybe a little bit related, but not really, and also a whole lot dumber than what Brad just introduced. So you had your H collection from a very talented, very esteemed individual in the film community, legend. I have my fella, who Brad already knows where I'm going with this. I have a fella whose works I collect. I occupies actually an entirely separate space. His stuff isn't on this shelf. It's over there on the floor because this office is too small and can't fit any more shelves in it. That's how much respect I have for this man's body of work. Um, but I have here a DVD, and by the way, most of my H picks are DVDs rather than Blu-rays or 4Ks. I was very surprised. I don't actually have that many Blu-rays in the H category. A lot of DVDs though. Both of these are Scott Adkins films, and I have
Wait,
here.
hang on. Before we get to this,
What's going on? What?
I hate to interrupt you, but you're
What?
telling me you have your Scott Adkins picks separated out from the main collection?
Yes.
I don't know if I knew that. That is interesting.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
We
whoa!
may need
Stream
to
over,
hold.
stream over.
We may need to hold an intervention here.
That's just not done.
That is interesting. Like like even like John Wick Chapter 3 or Chapter 4 or whatever would be like out.
John Wick Chapter 4 is actually over here because it's actually like a limited disc. So it's like I don't want it on the floor.
Okay. All right. All right.
It's the sole exception though.
That's the okay. This opens up a whole new can of worms.
I'm
So like,
working on getting a separate shelf. It's just this is a very small room, Brad.
yeah.
I'm
I just
working with
don't.
what I got.
I mean, is this like just a thing you're
I
doing for
don't have a
fun?
family video shelf in my office, Brad. It can't fit
Well,
it.
no, I'm just. Is this like a thing you're just doing for fun right now, or is this like how it always is?
Oh, the intention is to have a shelf of Adkins, like
Okay.
a separate shelf, like a collection within a collection, basically.
Okay. Very interesting. Very.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to think on this for a little bit. So go ahead.
All right, I'll give myself the single so you can pace. I'm just gonna hear muttering at the other end of the mic. Oh my god!
I just hang
Oh my
up.
god! I'm gonna kill him! Oh my god! I'm gonna kill him! Okay, so I have two Scott Adkins films that bear an H in the title as the first letter. Yo yo, says Starship Men, by the way. Yo yo indeed, buddy. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. Glad you could make it. I have here Ard Target 2. I say Ard Target because the original stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, and the way he pronounces it is Ard Target. It's Hard Target. But Hard Target 2 is a direct to video, obviously, didn't make theaters, a sequel to Ard Target. And there's a lot of crossover, a lot of bleed over between Scott Adkins' filmography and Jean-Claude Van Damme. They're both white guys who kick people, you see. So a lot of casting agents and producers think of them in the same vein. So they've actually been in a lot of movies together, sometimes opposite each other, sometimes side by side. And in this case, he inherited a action franchise from Jean-Claude Van Damme. This is not actually the only time that's happened. The Universal Soldier series of films was co-opted by Scott Adkins many years down the line as well. So there's a lot of crossover between the two of them. But this is filmed in Thailand, and it really, really, really lets you know it's filmed in Thailand in every shot. They make pretty good use of the locations, actually, and of the stunt crews, because Thai stunt crews go pretty balls out. They take some serious bumps in this movie. And it's really funny because the way this one ends actually is literally just a travel log of Scott Adkins in Thailand. Like it's not even behind the scenes footage. It's just Scott Adkins walking around in Thailand. So they must have had like a free afternoon or something. Or like, this place is cool. Let's just go for a walk. Not the only movie he's made there, by the way. I think Triple Threat was also filmed there with Tony Jaa. But yeah, this one's not half bad. You can see Rona Mitra is on the cover there as well. And that's Robert Knepper, who's like the more skeletal version of Frank Grillo, if that makes sense. Like imagine Frank Grillo, but minus like 70% muscle mass or something, and maybe a few years of age.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I recognize him. He looks familiar.
Yeah, you've seen him in things. He was in I think he was in one of the Transporter movies. He's done stuff. He's in like Species 3, I think. And also I have Home Invasion, which is only on DVD. The project, by the way, is to collect every Scott Adkins movie ever on some form of physical media, which is an impossible task, actually, because a decent number of his movies are now digital only at the moment, which is vexing. But this one had the privilege of coming out on DVD. And speaking of Species, that is Natasha Henstridge on the cover there, the leading lady from Species 1 and 2. Jason Patrick sits in a chair this entire film, Brad. He's like a 911 operator or like a security officer of some sort. And Scott Adkins, I think he hits somebody in anger once in this movie. But this, like, Inside Baseball, Brad and I were just talking about Panic Room, David Fincher's Panic Room, just prior to this stream. And this is essentially Panic Room, but with no money and with not very good actors. and we hired Scott Adkins to be the bad guy, and he doesn't do martial arts. So it's what are we doing here?
Okay,
What
okay.
are we doing?
What's the role of Jason Patrick then? Because if he's billed second, I would have assumed he's the villain. Is he the husband or something, or what's
No, he is a 911 operator or something, or like a security company operator of some sort. So he's on the phone with Natasha Henstridge the entire film. It's like that Halle
okay.
Berry movie. That was it. It's not on the line, or I
The
forget what it's
Call, I
called.
think.
Yeah, yeah, it's like that,
Interesting.
but
I'd
with
be
like a
curious to,
panic room scenario where Scott
yeah.
Adkins breaks into a rich person's home, and it's her husband or whatever who has the valuables, and she's just a victim caught in a crossfire with a
Hmm.
kid. Of course, there's a kid.
Yeah, I'd be curious to check it out. I mean, what year? Like, what year was that? How?
It's more recent than you might expect. It's I don't see it here, but point is, this one's more recent than you would expect, and it's there's a lot of fear mongering at work with this one. Just the
Yeah.
title, Brad. There's a segment of the population in this country that is deathly afraid of exactly this string of words, and then there's the rest of us who are like, that happens, like that's a thing. But there's this is a red box movie essentially. It's like Gim Gam and Gam Gam. They walk by the red box like, oh my god, home invasion. That's a thing that could happen to me and the missus. We better be prepared for that. So
Yeah.
we should watch this Scott Adkins movie.
That does,
That
was
guy
that
from Speed 2, he'll help us.
was that produced by Redbox? Because now that you say that, that
Oh
does
fuck.
look like a Redbox. Like I can see it on the marquee at Redbox.
I don't see any production banners. Odyssey
Even
Media
better.
presents,
Even better.
Taj Media, Art Entertainment, and directed by David Tennant.
I did see that. I looked it up. It is not the David Tennant
I
you're
mean,
thinking
I
of.
know that, but just like what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Home
Interesting.
Invasion and Art Target 2. Those are the two Scott Adkins movies. Those are the only two today, Brad. No surprises. This may be the only
Okay.
time I've ever led with Scott Adkins. Usually I reserve him for the finale, but there it is.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, throw him out. I love the guy from what I know.
I
Um,
love taking coffee breaks when you talk about him.
no, I just at first I was a little shocked to say the least that Scott Adkins had his own section, but honestly, I think I've come to accept it. I think I'm okay with it.
You're not going
Um,
to sleep tonight.
I mean,
Between that missing disc and the shelfless Adkins picks, aside from the rest of the collection, divorced from the rest of the collection.
it did help me take my mind off the missing disc, so thanks for bringing that up again. But I will say, I feel like you need to maybe either include John Wick 4, or if you're not going to include it with the Scott Adkins picks, you need to get a backup copy to include in there.
You are correct. That's actually the plan. Is I have my eyes
Okay.
out.
Okay.
There's a secondhand media store that I frequent here in Seattle called Owls. It's on the Ave in the University District. Great place. I've been keeping my eyes peeled for a Blu-ray of Doctor Strange on the cheap, because I want a physical copy to have one here and one there, basically to represent it in two places at once. But I want a cheap copy of it,
Hmm.
and Marvel discs for some reason sometimes are marked down, but not always. So I need Doctor Strange because he has a small nonverbal role in Doctor Strange. Way to blow your Adkins. Way to blow the Adkins wad on Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
He made the credits though, Brad. You know when they do the two credits, like they
Oh,
have the
yeah.
front credits and then they have the credits that go for 15 minutes. He made the front credits, Brad. Scott Adkins is his name pops up there with Mads Mikkelsen.
That's worth
So he's
mentioning. I mean,
yeah, he is part of the MCU. He's dead. Like he's dead in the MCU, but he's part of the MCU.
did you know, and I didn't know this until recently, and this is a little off topic, but the SAG Awards, the Screen Actors Guild Awards, they have the
Yeah.
award for Best Ensemble. Did you
Oh,
know that the way they determine who gets included in that award for Best Ensemble is they only include the names that are included that get their own separate credit. Um, So if Doctor Strange was nominated for Best Ensemble at the SAG Awards, Scott Adkins would have been included in the nomination of that.
Well, one can hope. One can hope that someday it'll happen. Someday the dream will come true. We'll see Scott Adkins in a tux on a stage somewhere getting it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't have much to say about it, but it is kind of fascinating that we don't have stunt awards.
Yeah.
Very fascinating that it's such a large component of the film industry that isn't represented at essentially a trade show. No one has ever done the MCU, says Starship. I mean, no one's
He's not
ever
wrong.
gone except, I mean, every rule that's ever been established in comics lore has been broken. Uncle Ben, I'm pretty sure, has come back. Bucky has come back. Jason Todd has come back. Everybody who dies in comics has come back. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think his name was Talbot. Like, they give him a name, but he doesn't speak in Doctor Strange, Brad. I'm pretty sure it was like Talbot or something. Anyway, yeah, Scott Adkins is part of the MCU. The other movie, though, you mentioned John Wick 4. Yeah, the plan is to also get a second disc of John Wick 4 so I can have it here and over there at the same time. So, does that put you a little bit more at ease?
I feel better about it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be able to
Okay.
sleep at night.
Okay. Well, I'm going to pass the baton to you, bud. So, what is your next H pick for today's discussion?
Well, I'm going to mention a movie that I have talked about on my show, and I'm going to say 93% sure you guys have talked about on Catching Up on Cinema. I'm only 93% sure because there's a 7% chance I'm getting it confused when I talk about it on my show, but I think you guys did a whole episode on this movie, and it is Alex Ross Perry's Her Smell. Was this part of Elizabeth Moss month? Is this am I correct remembering that?
Yeah, actually, totally right. We did a whole month devoted to Elizabeth Moss. Kind of funny that Kyle never once bothered to research that she's in the Church of Scientology that whole month. I think
That
I had
was
to.
that
I
was a
think I
great
had to tell
reveal.
him on the side. I was like, "Did you know?"
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, hey, listen, peace and love.
Peace and
I
love. Peace and love.
I'm certainly not Scientology's number one fan. I can tell you that much. But she rocks, and I think she's great in this movie. I've seen this movie a couple times now, and I just watched for the first time, or no, I rewatched for the first time. So I watched for the second time, Queen of Earth, which is the movie that Alex Ross Perry did before this movie, and I like them both a lot. I think Her Smell is a little bit better. Elizabeth Moss stars in both, and she stars as a rock star in this one. And it's one of those movies that take place over three separate sort of, maybe more than three, but 4 or 5, whatever, separate events in somebody's life and kind of follows them. And I'm curious what year this came out because it kind of is very similar in terms of structure to Steve Jobs, the Danny
Oh
Boyle Steve
yeah, yeah,
Jobs.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
This came
Her
out in
smell is very much set
2018.
up that way.
I think this movie might have ripped that off, if I'm being honest. But I still really like the movie a lot, and it was put out by the Vinegar Syndrome partner label, Gunpowder and Sky, I believe. And I love this release. You got the hard outer box, you got the inside with the slipcover, the magazine of the band.
Wow, beautiful. Wow, even
Very
with an
nice.
ad on the back,
Yeah, it's
it's a
very
nice
nice.
touch.
Um, but yeah, it's a very good movie. I listen. I really like Elizabeth Moss overall. I do think in some instances she can tend to overact a little bit. Again, peace and love, but generally I think she's quite good. I think she's probably best on Mad Men. I think Kyle would maybe agree on that. I'm pretty sure he's a big fan of her on that, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how that came about, as far as I understand. Is he's watched Mad Men all the way through, like multiple times. I think,
Yeah.
like he adores that show. I've never seen it, but it's like his long standing project to get me to watch that and Boardwalk Empire. He did get me to watch True Detective, but he's still got those other two that he's gunning for.
Yeah, I have not seen Boardwalk Empire, but I can vouch for Mad Men as well. It is great. Um, and yeah, Her Smell. It's not like a top tier movie or anything for me, but it is interesting having just watched Queen of Earth recently. How much this one. I mean, it's a very small film overall, but compared to Queen of Earth, this one has a much bigger budget. Like the cast is bigger, different locations. Like Queen of Earth is very small. I mean, there's basically 3 actors in the whole movie. It's all in one location. And this one definitely a step up in terms of Alex Ross Perry growing as a filmmaker. But these are the only 2 movies of his that I've seen. I think he maybe has been doing some TV stuff recently, but I want to say I heard he does have another movie coming out soon. But he's an interesting director. I kind of everything I've seen of his I've liked. So I'd be curious to watch more of his stuff.
Yeah, he's not a filmmaker that's really known to me. Her Smell came about on my podcast purely as a result of Kyle's interest, where he knew that she like largely carried the whole movie. We were doing a month devoted to spotlighting some of her bigger dramatic works, so it fit really well into that theme. But going into it, I knew almost nothing about even what it was about, let alone the filmography of the person making it. That's interesting. Like the structurally, I'm glad you brought up the Steve Jobs connection because you're absolutely right. Like that is very much how the film is put together. It's a series of snapshots. It's like very specific points across a person's lifetime, and like kind of like dramatic like pivot points, I guess, in their growth as a human being. I remember liking it quite a lot. It was kind of a standout in that month. I forget actually what the other movies we covered were. One of them was with one of the Duplass brothers. I think it was Mark Duplass was the male lead of it. And then we also did The Invisible Man, and I forget the name of the other one, but it was really good. She played I think like a author. It had like almost like a cultish vibe to it.
Was it Shirley?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Shirley.
Okay. I've
Good
not
call.
seen that one.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah. I just checked though. The director Alex Ross Perry, he directed the Ghost concert film Right Here, Right Now. So got to check that one. Got to add that to the list.
Is that the only Gunpowder and Sky disc that you have?
No, I want to say I have maybe one other one. I think Tragedy Girls might be Gunpowder and Sky.
Yeah.
But
Reason I ask is good. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I also have not watched this disc because I'm pretty sure I watched it for Movie Roulette, and then I bought it pretty immediately after that because it was at risk of going out of print or a limited edition or
Yeah.
whatever. And I was like, man, I just watched this, but I ended up pulling the trigger and buying it because I do like the movie.
Yeah, I'm curious. Should we do a backlog boogie one of these days soon?
Oh,
Because
should we?
I mean, my backlog's looking pretty meaty these days, like more so than usual, honestly.
Oh, I mean, mine is tremendously large.
Yeah, we should probably address that maybe next month or something.
Yeah. Tragedy Girls is also Gunpowder and Sky. I own that one, so I have 2 of their releases.
Very handsome box you got there. Like,
Yeah,
really, that
it is
seems like a nice
nice.
package.
Very nice.
I'm guessing the disc quality is also up there as well. Uh, I don't think they're podcasting anymore, but Brian Kuiper, I think was his name. He collaborated with us at Catching Up on Cinema once, twice. We definitely talked to him together, Brad. They he was collecting all of Gunpowder and Sky's discs for a minute there. I guess he was
Okay.
kind of like enamored with their style, like with their
Mhm.
approach to how they handled things. But yeah, I don't own any, so But yeah, nice pick, Brad. Also gave me another clean transition. So you had your selection of things that have been talked about on my podcast.
Okay. All right.
And being as my podcast has been posting weekly for like 8 years or something, like I'm narrowly behind you as far as longevity goes in the world of weekly podcasting. I have here actually 4 movies, all H movies that we have talked about here on the podcast. I may even be forgetting one for all I know. Sometimes I forget these things, but yeah, I pulled all of these aside at once because it's my show. I can do that, so I'm going to cheat here.
It was all from your Herbie month. Herbie Fully Loaded. Herbie Rides Again.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually seen any of the Herbie movies, but I remember having like some Disney VHSs when I was a kid that had like trailers for a lot of their live action movies.
Mhm.
And I remember thinking that Herbie movie looked kind of fun. I was like, that bug goes up on two wheels. That looks
Yeah,
fun,
yeah,
man.
probably would be. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like the Lindsay Lohan one, the Herbie Reloaded one came out in like the 2000s or whatever.
Mhm.
I never bit for her, but I think I was too old or something. But it is what it is. Anyway, so I have here four very, very, very different movies, but they're all H titles, so I'm going to tackle them all at once. So apologies for how incomprehensible the discussion that follows is inevitably going to be. So I have here the Heroic Trio and the Executioners. I believe these are 4K discs from the Criterion Collection. I reviewed these movies very recently, within the past month, I think. Yeah, within the past month, because last month was Ladies' Night, Part 2, here at Catching Up on Cinema. We were talking about action movies headlined by women, and these are action movies from Hong Kong that are headlined by three women: Michelle Yeoh, Maggie Cheung, and Anita Mui. All of them are Hong Kong Chinese film royalty. Obviously, Michelle Yeoh is still alive and kicking. Literally, in some cases, she won her Oscar for Best Actress not that long ago. Maggie Cheung, as far as I know, is somewhat reclusive these days. Like, she doesn't do a whole lot, and unfortunately, Anita Mui has passed away. Brad and I were actually just talking about her in the thingy that we recorded just prior to this live stream. But yeah, these are in the Criterion Collection, so they're probably worth your time. They're directed by Johnny To, and honestly, though, they felt like strange entries in the Criterion Collection, being as they're very, very, very like mainstream, like blockbuster action schlock movies from Hong Kong, from a like critically acclaimed director with some like heavy hitting actors in it. But the movies themselves, aside from the overall reputation of the people involved, are kind of schlocky. So it's a very strange entry, but fun movies for sure. I can't not say that. I also have Hitman Hart, Wrestling with Shadows. This is a documentary about Bret the Hitman Hart, who's very near and dear to me for a variety of reasons. I grew up watching Bret the Hitman Hart. He's always kind of been my guy. He was always the character that my brother picked in all the wrestling video games when we were growing up. He would make me be Yokozuna. It was Bret and Yoko, who were, funny enough, rivals in real wrestling. Anyway, this is a uh, very good documentary, very excellent documentary about the Montreal Screwjob. Now, Brad, if I say Montreal Screwjob, do you know what that is? Because you're not a wrestling fan, not at all.
I know the name and I know of it, but I can't bring it to forefront of my mind. But as soon as you say it, I know I'm going to know what it is. But I do know of it. So explain.
Well, I'll very succinctly say that it was an instance wherein Bret Hart was planning to not retire, but move to a different company. He was planning to move from the WWF at the time to WCW, which was its competitor, in pursuit of more money. He was told he would get to hand over the title, the championship belt that he had at the time, in a place that was not Canada, because he is Canadian very proudly, and was stalwart in his refusal to hand over the title, to lose in front of a Canadian audience when he knew he would not be returning for another show with that company. Everybody told him that was going to be the case. They lied. They betrayed him in front of thousands and thousands of people, forced him to lose. He didn't know it was going to happen, hence Screwjob. And it created a contentious rift between he and Vince McMahon, confirmed bad person, uh, that lasted for decades. I think they buried the hatchet eventually, or at least he and Shawn Michaels, the wrestler who perpetrated the Montreal Screwjob, the two of them have reconciled since then. But this is a documentary that was filmed not for the purpose of capturing that. That's what makes it special. Is it was just a documentary following him in a moment that just happened to be like one of the most infamous and memorable in all of wrestling history.
Mm-hmm.
Also has standard definition copy of, I believe it's called The Life and Death of Owen Hart, from the same director, which is the life and death of his brother Owen Hart, which tragically happened live in front of an audience. He fell to his death and broke his neck in front of a pay-per-view crowd. Also a good documentary. Um, Also, I have Hydra, which I believe is a Kensuke Sonomura, is the Japanese director of this film. This was a movie that I like in hardcore martial arts fans circles was kind of a big deal. If you're not in those circles, this would never find its way to your radar, unfortunately. Really, mostly what this movie is just a highlight reel, or a concept reel, more accurately, for a different style of martial arts on film. One that involves a lot of like really rapid fire, like punching, lots of hand sparring, lots of like boxing techniques, like almost like practical boxing techniques, a lot of grappling as well. It looks utterly unique. The way that the martial arts are carried out in this film, it's really only highlighted in like two sequences. It's a movie, like it is a narrative, but really all it is an excuse to highlight, like present to the world, this is a different way of doing these things that you've seen countless times over, done in a different way. So very fascinating in that regard. A little bit of like an artifact, I guess, like a moment in time where it's like, this is where the Japanese stunt community tried something new, and you're actually starting to see those ideas get propagated. Like I'm starting to see that style be utilized in Japanese film a lot more often. So it worked out, even if the movie's mediocre. And last but not least, Hard Boiled. John Woo's Hard Boiled, which I think we talked about The Killer maybe the last time we talked, Brad.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hard Boiled is, to me, it's almost like a package deal. It's like a 1-2 punch. There's The Killer, there's Hard Boiled. These are the two really, really, really big John Woo movies that really greatly solidified his reputation in this region, aside from his American output. It's basically what got him his American film career. This is on DVD. It's in very poor condition. As far as I know, this movie hasn't been released. If it exists on Blu-ray in our region, it hasn't been well taken care of. This and The Killer are both some of his very best movies. A lot of people would point to like A Better Tomorrow as being like one of the most important of his career. Personally, The Killer and Hard Boiled are my very favorites. Along with, I have a soft spot for Face Off. I don't know if it's fair to say it holds a candle to a lot of his Chinese filmography, but I love Face Off. It's one of the first R-rated movies I ever saw. But this one, in terms of action spectacle, this is a holy shit moment, Brad. Like this is special. Like the pyrotechnics, the gunplay in it are sublime. Like it's a game changer. It sets a standard that is still very hard to live up to. So if you just want to see shit get blowed up, if you just want to see some squibs, be hard pressed to find something better, honestly.
Yeah, I really want to see that movie. I don't know if you can like easily access it digitally, like if it's an easy rental, but obviously the dream would be it gets a wide Blu-ray or even a 4K release, because yeah,
Something.
a lot of John Woo's early stuff, and a lot of his stuff I haven't seen. I have seen Face Off, Mission Impossible 2. What are some of his other Hollywood? He did Broken
Broken
Arrow,
Arrow,
right? I haven't seen that one.
Paycheck. Everybody
Yeah,
remembers Paycheck, Brad.
of course,
Yeah, Paycheck, the movie where Ben Affleck uses a staff.
Yeah,
That's his workout routine in that movie, Brad. He's got a staff. And I think he fights Aaron Eckhart.
Okay, pretty
Yeah,
cool, pretty cool.
yeah. The most memorable film ever made.
But yeah, that's
Oh, yeah, and Wind Talkers. Don't forget Wind Talkers.
Oh, I have seen that one. I have seen that one.
Yeah, yeah. Wind Talkers is not half bad, actually.
But
It's melodramatic, being as it's a John Woo movie. Like, not the best guy to do a war movie, but it has some cool moments. Like it especially when he just makes it a John Woo movie. Like, I don't know if you remember this, Brad, but there's Christian Slater is in that one, who is also in Broken Arrow. So he'd worked with John Woo previously. And he also has his code talker buddy And like the whole narrative is that Nicolas Cage has a contentious relationship with Adam Beach. Like he doesn't want him basically. But then Christian Slater's the more open-minded guy who's like, I like my guy. I'm actually trying to learn his language and his culture and stuff. And there's the sequence where it's the two of them, Christian Slater and his code talker, fighting the Japanese in like a temple or something. And there's like a Zen garden or something. That's just John Woo doing John Woo shit. Where it's like, in the middle of this war movie, we're just gonna do some John Woo shit. We're gonna have two guys with a brotherly relationship fight an army of dudes and get shot 30 times.
Yeah.
That sequence was kind of cute. Where it's like, okay, like I don't remember if that one has doves. It very well may, but it's doves, Catholicism, brothers. If you can check all those boxes, then you have a John Woo movie.
I might be getting this confused with We Were Soldiers, actually. I don't think I've seen Wind Talkers.
Oh my god, you let me ramble that whole time.
Well, no, I'm glad you did, because now I want to see it. But we were is it Wind Talkers or We Were Soldiers where the guy gets burnt by the napalm?
That's We Were Soldiers.
Okay,
Although,
yeah.
I mean, it probably happens in both, being as Wind Talkers takes place in the Pacific, and flamethrowers were a thing. But no, that's most certainly We Were Soldiers. Different war, Brad.
Well, yeah,
different war.
When you mentioned the war, I was like, hang on a second.
The Japanese?
Yeah,
I don't remember the Japanese in the Vietnam War.
Yeah. And you've talked about We Were Soldiers before, at least to me. So that's why very confusing.
Sorry. I mean, they're both war movies that begin with W. So
and I mean, they came out around the same, like, weren't they all both early 2000s?
They were. So yeah.
Something's up here. I can't be the only one who's gotten confused by this.
I mean, it's War on Terror, Brad. We needed some good war movies where we could feel good about shooting people.
Yeah.
Anyway, those were, I think, all the H movies that we've covered at Catching Up on Cinema. So I tackled them all in one go.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah.
So I'm gonna pass it back to you though, bud. What's your next H pick?
Well, I'll mention a movie that I don't know how much I'm gonna have to say about this, because it's been a while since I've watched it, but we were just talking about this filmmaker earlier tonight, so I feel like it's serendipitous that I have the chance to mention one of his movies here. And the filmmaker is Mr. Lars von Trier, and the movie is The House That Jack Built, which I think is his most recent feature film. I believe he did direct a new season of his TV show The Kingdom or something since this, but I don't think he's done a movie since this one. And when it came out, I really liked it. I mean, I'm not all that well versed in Lars von Trier, but I mean, most of what I've seen, I've kind of loved. I know a lot of people say he can be kind of pretentious, full of himself, have his head up his ass, if we're allowed to say that. But I don't know, man. I agree. I think he is probably pretty pretentious, but like his movies are pretty entertaining, and they might be maybe a little obvious in the ideas that they're going for, but his direction is just, there's something about his sequences that are very memorable and unique. Like, I can still remember moments from this movie. Is it Dogma, right? Am I not Dogtooth? That's my boy.
I think you might be right with the Dogtooth.
Is it Dogtooth? What
Pretty
am I
sure.
thinking of? No, that's
Dogville.
Dogville. Yeah.
Dogtooth, I've heard, is a fucked up movie though.
I love Dogtooth, and I love Dogville. That's an interesting experiment. Come up, find me another movie that starts with dog, and I bet you I gave it a 5 out of 5. Because so far we're 2 for 2. But Dogma, that's the Kevin Smith movie, right?
Yes.
Never seen it, but I have to add it to watch list now.
Dog movies.
But House That Jack Built, about a serial killer. Matt Dillon is in it, and yeah, it's very much a Lars von Trier film. So if you don't like him, probably not going to dig this. I think it's split up in like 5 different chapters or whatever.
Yeah,
The
3
end of the
hours long.
movie is it is quite long from what I remember. There are 2 cuts here. 152 minutes for the director's cut.
There
So
you go.
not the longest of his, but it is up there. And the moment that I remember the most is the final sequence of this movie is Matt Dillon and Bruno Gans or however you say his name, walking, traversing their way down through the pits of hell. And I love it. And it's definitely not for everybody. And I've only seen it once. I would really like to revisit it. And like I was telling you, I want to go through and see all of Lars von Trier's movies. So this one would be, if I do that, it would be towards the end because this is his most recent.
Yeah, Brad and I were talking about Lars von Trier before we started the live stream. My regular co-host on Catching Up on Cinema, Kyle, he is a big fan of Lars von Trier. And in fact, he introduced me to his filmography, being as I had never seen a Lars von Trier film. But like I said, Kyle's a big fan, so he actually lobbied for us to review Antichrist from 2009. That's, I think, the only movie we've reviewed for Catching Up on Cinema. However, Kyle was kind enough to provide me, he lent me, I think, a Criterion DVD of Element of Crime. The Element of Crime. I think that's Lars von Trier's first theatrical, like, feature-length film. He lent that to me because he was like, you might want to have an introduction just so you can have an idea of this guy's oeuvre, like what he's about. And I think that was wise. Plus, it was a very good movie. Like, I thought Element of Crime was very, very fascinating, especially from a visual standpoint. Just tonally interesting stuff. But yeah, I know he's known for his heady kind of stuff, somewhat indulgent filmmaking style. I can't claim to be a fan of the man because I've seen 2 of his movies and they were very good, but I don't know if it's exactly my vibe. But very fascinating. I did hear very good things about the house that Jack built. I heard it was pretty nasty. Like, definitely not something for everybody. But that's not something that scares me away. So I was actually kind of interested. I did not know that there was a director's cut of that one. I'm actually looking at his filmography right now, just to like take a look at anything that might be worth jumping into, like things that jump out at me. And I just for fun, I just kind of like one of these titles jumped out at me, Brad. Manderley. Have you heard of this one? Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
I've heard of it, but I've not seen it.
Okay, well, I hovered my mouse over it on the Wikipedia page, and Bryce Dallas Howard is like front and center on the poster for it, and she's smiling. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, Bryce Dallas Howard. And then I looked at the Rotten Tomatoes score, which I'm not a Rotten Tomatoes guy. Normally, I don't put stock in that. It's just the statistic was like right next to it, right next to the article. And sure enough, it's the lowest rated one.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The reason I remember this is because I guess it's a sequel to Dogville. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, no shit.
Um,
He did a sequel? Oh, I guess he's done The Kingdom and Kingdom 2.
yeah, but
And Nymphomaniac, was that one split?
yeah, that was split, but it was like back to back. Like it was
Yeah.
all filmed in one
Yeah,
go. But I do like Scott is here. Hey.
Hey,
Um
Scott, how you doing? We had some news for Scott. I can't remember what it was.
was it the trivia thing?
I think, yeah, it was a trivia thing.
Yeah, should I mention that? Is that
Sure, let's have a divergence being as Scott is here.
yeah, I'm about done with Lars anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott, I had I know you're a big Free Willy fan, and I was I host trivia Thursday nights. If you want to come by and play. And one of the questions was a Free Willy question. The answer was Free Willy, I believe. And it was the question was, what song did Michael Jackson, or what movie did Michael Jackson do the original song blah, 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 for? And the answer is Free Willy, and a lot of people got it.
Yeah, so Scott is being Scott. In Scream 7, Scott says this, by the way. In Scream 7, Sydney's daughter gets chased by Ghostface. She rescues her daughter and scares Ghostface away and get the phone call, and she recognizes misspelled, the voice. It's Stu's voice. Thank you, Scott. So, did you have anything else to say about the house that Jack built, Brad?
No, just I'd like to rewatch it again.
All right,
Rewatch it for the first time. Watch it again.
rewatch it. Have you watched the director's cut before?
I don't think so. I mean, unless that was the version that was widely available when it first came out, because I watched it like when it came out that year. And I think I watched it. I don't think it had a big release, so I watched it at home. But I'm assuming I watched the theatrical cut. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you might want to check on that because
Okay.
I didn't know that even existed. So, passed back to me. So, you have Lars von Trier, Brad. Man, this is a you preface things by saying this was going to be a good episode. So far, this is a great episode, Brad.
Let's
I'm
go.
very happy with this. Yeah, let's
Mm-hmm.
fucking go. Like, I need to say bruh more often, Brad. If I'm going to be doing this streaming thing, I need to learn to say bro or bruh
Mm-hmm.
instead of using commas in my punctuation. And I need to say "let's go" like every time we do anything mundane, like every time I take a sip of coffee or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scott's back, by the way. Says, if I go to England, would it be safe to go to the Conjuring 2 house or not? Is that house on fence? Stop, is it safe to look at or will you get possessed? Translate for me, Brad. What the fuck was that?
Well, The Conjuring 2 house, of course, it's a real life haunted house. Because the cases of Ed and Lorraine Warren are real. And I would say, Scott, I would go to the house, but I would stand back. I would stay on the street. I would not leave the sidewalk and go on the property. That would be my piece of advice for you.
Thank you for that, Brad. So you have Lars von Trier. Oh, thank you, Starship Man. Thank you, Santino. That's very sweet of you. It's always a great show.
It is. It is.
We try. We try. So you have Lars von Trier. I, however, can match you with my David Leitch. And
Okay.
this is
All right.
also a bit of a cheat. Not really, though, because I think it's officially just called Hobbs and Shaw in some places. I'm looking at the Wikipedia entry. It's simply called Hobbs and Shaw.
Okay. All right.
Although, if you look at the cover, it says Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw. I treat this as Hobbs and Shaw, though Wikipedia does as well. So, if you're not familiar, David Leitch is a director of films who has a stunt background. He comes from 8711/87 North, which, as far as I know, he founded with Chad Stahelski, co-founded, who is like the brainchild of the John Wick films, that whole franchise. And David Leitch actually co-directed John Wick. And I mentioned the Three Musketeers when it comes to Hong Kong cinema. We have Jackie Chan, Yuen Biao, and Sammo Hung. Those three men are all amazing film talents, amazing acrobats, amazing martial artists, but they all have very different stylistic sensibilities. And it's worth pointing out that Brad and I were talking about the Coen brothers prior to this live stream and about how Joel and Ethan have different stylistic sensibilities. In a similar sense, Chad Stahelski and David Leitch kind of fit into that mold, where Chad, just seeing interviews with the guy, you can tell he's kind of a serious dude. Like, he has an intense aura about him. David Leitch is a goofball, and you can tell from his movies. He likes his jukebox soundtracks for his movies. He likes using licensed music. He likes to cut to music. He likes his pop music. He likes tongue-in-cheek humor. He likes fun much more than Chad Stahelski, like more goofy kind of fun. I think this is his worst movie. I think
Well,
Hobbs
I
and
would agree, indubitably.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, Brad, if you agreed, and sounds like you do. So I'm looking
Yeah,
at
I
his
don't like the
filmography.
movie.
It's very short, so this won't take long. But like I said, he co-directed John Wick. Atomic Blonde, I think, is legitimately pretty great. Deadpool 2, I actually like a decent amount. Hobbs and Shaw, I think, like I said, is his worst. Bullet Train, you and I talked about that for your podcast, Brad. I
Hmm.
think we both liked it. I think it's a
Yep.
solid 3.5. And The Fall Guy didn't do as well when I watched the extended cut of it at home, but in the theater, it worked pretty well. I had a good time watching that on a date night with my fiance. But yeah, Hobbs and Shaw, this ain't it. This just ain't it. Um, it's supposed to be, a divergence from the Fast and Furious, the greater franchise. spotlighting like arguably the two biggest stars of that franchise, the Dwayne the Rock Johnson himself and Jason Statham. But oof, it feels like amateur hour, honestly. Like the David Leitch's tendencies come out in the worst of ways. Where I remember there's a couple of action beats in like the opening 20 minutes or so of it that are cut to music. Like there's a musical action montage that it's just cringe. And by the way, Santino says Bullet Train has the best cameo.
No,
No,
disagree.
no.
Worst cameo.
What the fuck are you talking about, Santino? I like you, Santino, but you're wrong.
he has got his Ryan blinders on. His
Yeah.
Rinders.
Well, there's multiple cameos in it as well. There's the one at the finale. That it's a vocal performance up until the last scene of the movie.
We know what cameo he's talking about.
We know what cameo he's talking about. Ryan Reynolds. He is in the movie.
I think he's trolling a little bit too. He knows I hate Deadpool.
Yeah.
He knows I hate Ryan Reynolds.
By the way, Scott, you will be acknowledged. That's why you're here, correct? So I got a good news about Rexy the Tyrannosaurus Rex from the Jurassic Park franchise. She's still alive in the franchise. She's not dead. It's been confirmed, and Blue the Velociraptor is still alive. I think you said that last time, maybe. How do you guys feel about we're going to hear Stu's voice when he calls Sydney? It's been confirmed that he is the mastermind in this movie in Scream 7. Why did you spoil it for yourself, Scott? Like you just ruined it for two people on the internet. You asshole. Would you guys go to the Free Willy movie locations one of these days, especially the Free Willy house and Hammond Marina at the end of the movie, and go to the San Juan Islands? I am from Seattle, Washington. The San Juans, right over there. I'm not gonna do it though.
I would go to the iconic Free Willy house. Absolutely.
There's an iconic Free Willy house.
Yeah, come where you been, dude?
What the fuck? I didn't realize the house was the star of that movie, Brad. I thought it was that rock wall. That was the star of the film. Brad loved Deadpool. Good English, said Scott, be careful if you spam the chat. You might get auto-blocked by the YouTube. Ball sack. Exclamation ball sack with exclamation point, says Santino.
Yeah.
Thanks, Santino. You're a force for good in the universe. But yeah, I don't have much to say about Hobbs and Shaw other than I like David Leitch. I obviously I don't think he's an amazing filmmaker, but I do enjoy his spirit of fun when it comes to cutting together action. He's got his head on straight when it comes to wearing his influences on his sleeve. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's cloying, like sometimes it's a little obnoxious. But as far as like representing the stunt community in the director, like via the director's chair, he's a special ambassador for that world, and I'm glad we have him. Mm-hmm. So he's very nascent in his filmmaking career. He does have some certified bangers already on his resume. I do think Atomic Blonde is pretty exceptional. So he's going to keep working. Hopefully he will get better. He left off on a decent note. Like I said, I kind of like The Fall Guy, and Bullet Train was pretty fun too.
Yeah, his films are fun and likable. I do feel like, he obviously did direct Deadpool 2, but I do feel like he has that kind of Deadpool style humor vibe to all of his movies.
Yeah, very much so.
Personally, I think they're much better or much funnier than the actual Deadpool movies. Like, I think, Bullet Train is better. I think Free Guy is better. Atomic Blonde, I guess that did have moments of humor, but or Fall Guy, I meant to say, but Atomic Blonde seemed, from what I remember, it was a little more serious. I mean, that obviously had music cues, but I don't remember it being as jokey as his other ones.
No, it was more sincere. It was more earnest, and I think it was to its benefit. Like, especially because I think it's semi-autobiographical. I probably mentioned that on the Cinema Speak podcast we did about it. I was on Brad's show to talk about that one, because that's the rule, apparently. If David Leitch makes a movie, I have to review it with you. Mm-hmm. I don't mind. I think it's a fun little tradition. Like, keip making movies, Dave. Like, guarantees me guest slots on the Cinema Speak podcast. Job security. I think it's semi-autobiographical in that the the relationship, the core relationship of that movie, which is inherently a romance for the most part, is how he actually like met his wife. Like our director, like actually met his wife in that fashion. And also like that seems to be like his territory as well. Like it's something like in his very limited filmography, it's something he's explored prior. Like in Deadpool 2, it's like it's surprisingly earnest at times when it's dealing with like kind of the romance business. So it seems like something that he aspires to. Like he wants to try to include some form of sincerity amongst all the goofy hijinks and stuff. Brad's making a face, which means Scotty's saying some stuff. So I better get back to reading the comments. Thanks for hijacking the show. We always appreciate it. Do you remember the Bigfoot film, Harry and the Hendersons? Would you be interested in going to look at the house and the film locations, especially the forest locations? I mean, yeah, I want to see the toilet that John Lithgow pooped in. Yeah, I want to see the toilet that the hole that Kevin Peter Hall dug in the fucking woods to shit in. Sorry, guys, I'm just very excited about the Scream 7 and Matthew Lillard return. Spoilers, motherfucker! I'm just a big fan of the franchise.
I'll cut him some slack on that. That was like in the trades and everything.
Oh, that was publicized?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I didn't know.
I think, unless I heard it from him. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just heard it from him.
Hear about it. I feel betrayed. Harry and the Henderson, plural, is a great movie, says Santino. I like Uncle Buck, which Brad and I talked about again just prior to this live stream. I saw that movie when I was a little kid. I remember liking it. Don't remember much of anything about it, but I would rewatch that one. I like John Lithgow. He's got like some horror movie or something right now that's supposed to be. It's getting some buzz, man. Have you heard about
I
this?
think it's on Shudder or coming to Shudder at some point.
Yeah, it's like an old folks home or something. He's got a hand puppet or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he wants that Oscar, buddy. He wants it.
Don't even get me started on him. Don't even. Let's keep moving.
We'll move on. Scott says, "Sorry, Starship Men. I just about Matthew and Stu on the internet. That's all. Sorry." He apologized, Santino. Don't fight him. Don't fight him in the comments. It's all good, Scott Walker. I've seen some stuff about people coming back. Lol. You guys are gonna have to beep the spoilers in this ep, says Santino. I'm a Luddite. I don't know how to do this on a live stream. You come on and figure it out for me, Santino. Okay, that's enough out of me. Would you like to do another pick, Brad, or are you done?
I could go one more round. I could do one more probably.
Let's do one more. So what is your next H titled film?
I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the show. I may have, just because it's a really great set. But this one, I'll go a little trashier on this one. I feel like I've been picking too highbrow my picks. So I'll mention I have here, which I did just recently watch all 4 of these movies. I have the Hellraiser Quartet of Torment set.
Ooh, sexy.
Yes, which is put out by Arrow. Now, this is a 4K set of the first 4 Hellraiser movies, which is the 4 theatrically released Hellraiser movies. Arrow put it out. They're a UK company, and they put it out UK only at first. For the first year, you can only get this was a UK exclusive, but 4K is region free. So I actually imported this, and then the next year they put it out in the United States as well. So I didn't really need to import it because I actually didn't even watch it until the next year. But anyway, that doesn't matter. I just think it's cool that I actually imported this. But yeah, it's a really sexy set. You've got this awesome booklet here, which I have not gone through, and there could be some.
That's a book.
It's pretty big. Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, you could actually read that like a book. That's impressive.
Yeah, still got that smell to it.
Oh,
smells a little like it's like stale pretzels almost.
It's a lovely smell.
Yeah. And then here we've got the just really nicely done.
Damn. Wow.
Big fan of this set. And the movies, I'm not the biggest Hellraiser head, but I really like the first one and the second one. I think they're both quite good. And honestly, like I didn't think any of these 4 were bad. Like the 4th one is the one that gets the closest to being bad. But it's like almost just interesting in how much its reach exceeds its grasp. It's,
Yeah, it's a very ambitious movie.
yeah, it's Hellraiser in space, but we're also flashing back to the past, and there's like a lot of weird stuff going on in it. And it was fun watching these movies. I was tempted to continue on and watch all of them, all the Hellraiser movies, and I
No,
didn't quite get there. But
unless
yeah,
you want to see Henry Cavill, like it's just like a fun trivia factoid. He was in one of them.
yeah, Scott Derrickson, I think he directed that one out
Yeah,
actually.
I believe you're right.
So yeah, there's a few interesting elements there. Yeah, I mean, most of the movies are bad, but the first four, I'd say, are mostly good. And I think the first one, it's not like an all timer, in my opinion. But I do think the first one is very good. I think you said you prefer the second one, and I can see why. I can see why. I still think I prefer the first one a little bit, but the second one has a lot of great elements to it.
I prefer the second one, but if I'm being honest, like they need each other uh,
Hmm.
very badly. Like I think as a package, like if you watch them back to back, I think is the way you get the most out of your Hellraiser, because both the
Hmm.
movies have some liabilities. The first one feels too small, and the second one feels too big, where it's like it goes a little crazy, it goes a little further out there, and it's too tightly connected to the first one to the point that you really need it. You can't
Hmm.
just. It's not like when I watched Aliens when I was young, very young, with my brother, and I had never seen Alien. I knew nothing about it other than the thing comes out guy's chest. But that movie, remember, came out in a time when sequels were not what they are today.
Hmm.
Those movies are 7 years apart. So when that movie came out, when Aliens came out, it was understood we need to treat this like its own thing. Like it is a sequel for sure, but it has to be able to stand on its own two legs because it's not coming out a year and a half or 2 years after the big hit that we just had. It's been 7 fucking years. It's been a while. Um, but yeah, I like the Hellraiser. I like those four movies. They all have some strengths to them. I don't think any of them are like absolutely like mind-bogglingly brilliant. They all have liabilities, but as an exhibition of art and aesthetics and special effects technology, the first two I think are really neat.
Hmm.
There's basically no other movie that looks like them, and Clive Barker really found something with that. That it's very much his style, which was very new, very fresh at the time. Um, the third one is where it I think maybe changed studios or something. They tried to commercialize the product very obviously. It's dumber, it's louder, it's more aggressive, and it's trying to be more fun, but it's a little too dumb.
Hmm.
And like you had said, Brad, the fourth one is very ambitious from a narrative standpoint. They're doing some shit. Like they're telling a story across time and generations. Like I feel like a lot of horror franchises invariably go that route. I'm pretty sure Puppet Master did the exact same fucking thing eventually. But I remember actually not hating Hellraiser 4. Like Bloodlines is the subtitle, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I remember seeing that on like cable, like Encore or something at my parents' house, like late at night, and it caught enough of my interest that I didn't change the channel.
Hmm.
And by the time you get to the meat dog on the space station at the end, I was like, they put a meat dog in a space station.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, well, you could do a lot worse. Doesn't make a lick of sense, but somebody wanted to make a meat dog,
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
like the Bye Bye Man or whatever. The Bye Bye Man needs a meat dog as a pet, cause
I
yeah, that makes sense.
I think the fourth one is also extremely short, like it's only like 82 minutes or something like that.
I think you're right.
Um,
Yeah.
and so it probably to its detriment, I think it was cut down a lot by the studio, but also to its benefit because it's like never overstays its welcome.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I actually don't mind. I think I prefer it actually over the third one, just because the third one it's cheeky, like it's winking at you with how dumb it is. Where it's like we're gonna put a fucking CD player in a dude's head. It's like okay, we're gonna have a dude with a pile driver in his eye socket that's also a camera. It's like
Yeah.
sure. I do like the meat totem though. That's a
Hmm.
from an artistic standpoint, from an
Yeah.
aesthetic standpoint, that is a cool concept that I've I'm pretty sure I've seen elsewhere. I've seen borrowed in other places. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a memorable bit of iconography that comes from that movie. So they all have their merits. They all have something. None of them are a waste, but none of them are my favorite in any category.
Yeah, and maybe someday I'll watch the other sequels, but that's a project for another time.
Yeah, I'd be careful with that, man. I'd maybe do more Clive Barker stuff or something instead. Like just Lord of Illusions. If you haven't seen that one, check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't.
Check it out. It's fun.
Yeah, Nightbreed. That's him too, right?
Yeah, that one he actually directed.
Yeah, but I haven't seen Lord of Illusions.
Lord of Illusions, I think, just has his name on it.
Okay.
Maybe he helped with like scripting or something. I don't think he directed it, but Mr. Kruger from Seinfeld is in it. Daniel von Bargen. Yeah, the headmaster from Malcolm in the Middle or whatever. He's in there, and Scott Bakula, and what's his face, Kevin J. O'Connor, KJOC. If I say that string of letters to you, does that mean anything to you, Brad?
Not much of anything, no.
Benny from The Mummy.
Okay. Yeah, that means something.
Talent. Well, actually, legitimate talent. The man shared the screen with Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood. He apparently is a talented actor if Paul Thomas Anderson's inviting him to work with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
Shit. So Benny graduated. By the way, question about your box set there. Does it have documentaries about the first two movies? Because I've never wanted to own the Hellraiser movies, but there's a documentary about the first two that's called, I think it's called like Leviathan Rises or something. It's something Leviathan because that's the name of Satan or whatever in that film universe. It's a documentary about the making of the first two movies that I would like to own. I remember watching it a long time ago, and I was very impressed with it.
I don't see it listed here.
Well, while you're looking, I'm going to read some comments here. So Scott says, I think you're repeating yourself, buddy. Remember the submersible disaster that happened 2 years ago now? They're planning on making a movie about the incidents. How do you guys feel about this? Imagine how the families must feel. Pretty bad, I'd imagine, being as lives were lost and stupid things happened. Okay, we don't need to reply to that one.
I don't see it listed here, so I would say not included, unfortunately.
Oh man. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna just buy all four of those movies just on a whim or anything, but very handsome package. Really like that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna close this out, I guess, and then we'll head into the speed round. So this will be our last round, and this is gonna be a doozy because this is heavy. I got a lot of picks here, and I'm gonna do them all at once. I'm trying not to futz with the keyboard because if I hit a button on the keyboard, we might lose each other, and we don't want to close down the stream because that would be bad. Don't do that. It's probably happened before. Okay. So I have here a franchise, Brad. You had a franchise. Oh. Wow. Look at the symmetry.
Very nice.
You had a franchise. I have a franchise. And it is Highlander.
Oh my. There's that many?
There's that many. And it's actually not that many, but I'll explain. So we have Highlander on Blu-ray. 30th anniversary edition, director's cut. Which actually the director's cut of this movie, I don't know if it's actually the superior cut of this movie. It adds a lot of extraneous details, including some subplots involving his secretary in the movie that bog things down a little bit. I don't know if that's actually a better movie, but I have the Blu-ray. But I also have a DVD of it on widescreen. Look at that horrible packaging, Brad. Wow. Look at that horrible cover art.
Very nice.
Yeah. Also director's cut. Deluxe collector's edition. So Highlander as directed by Russell Mulcahy. But we also have Highlander 2. It doesn't actually say The Quickening on the cover art. But the released version of this movie is actually officially titled Highlander 2, The Quickening. So this is a DVD special edition of Highlander 2, also directed by Russell Mulcahy, production designer of Blade Runner worked on that movie. You can really tell. Highlander 2, Renegade version. The director's cut, also hideous cover art. Absolutely hideous cover art. Do you know what this means, Brad?
No, I
When I say
don't.
renegade version. Do you know, have you seen Highlander? Do you
I
know
have
much of
not.
anything?
No.
Okay. So, spoilers. In the first film, there's a mystical quality to the storytelling. It's about a race of immortals, human beings who are ageless, timeless. They do not die via natural causes. The only way to kill them is to behead them, to slice their head off of their shoulders. In this film, in Highlander 2, they retcon that and say, aliens. It was not magic. It was not fantastical elements. They are a race of aliens who have been exiled to Earth like Superman or some shit. That is why they are different from the rest of us humans.
Oh.
This version of the film, the Renegade version, retcons that retcon and says they are not aliens. It's a re-edit. It's an unofficial re-edit of the movie that has been published multiple times in physical media. Multiple times, Brad.
Yeah.
That removes elements of the script, scenes from the film that reference the aliens.
So do fans prefer this version then generally?
Yes. And it's funny because I'm not even a huge fan of Highlander. I just, I was raised around Highlander. By the way, Scott intrudes. I think the best movies from 1993 is Jurassic Park, Dennis the Menace, and Free Willy. Sure.
I would include the Remains of the Day in that, but
Oh yeah. New favorite of Brad's. And Santino says, "Get ready for the remake." Yes, a Highlander remake has been in the works in Hollywood for a decade. Funny enough, actually, we mentioned him earlier. Let's be real. I mentioned him earlier. Brad doesn't give a shit. Chad Stahelski has been pointed to as the man being courted to handle a Highlander remake, should it happen, which it hasn't in at least a decade or so. Scott also says, which Batman movie do you think is the greatest of all time? I personally believe the greatest Batman film ever made is The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger, and he is the best out of all the Jokers. I like Jack. I like Jack Nicholson Joker. I do like Heath Ledger Joker. Batman Returns is my favorite Batman movie, personally. Dark Knight is up there, though.
Yeah, I would probably say Dark Knight, but it is close with Batman Returns.
Yeah, and Batman Begins in recent years has actually moved way up my list. I didn't like it all that much the first time I saw it, but after doing the masterclass, after like really diving into it, I appreciate it a lot more. And I'm that guy who really likes the Batman. Like I really liked the Batman, and I finished Penguin, by the way. Scott also says, I would love to see a movie about Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption. One of the movies on Red Dead Redemption 2 or Red Dead Redemption 1. Rockstar fan, eh? Okay. I haven't played any of those games. I play a lot of games, but I don't play Rockstar games for the most part. So is it canon, says Santino? Batman Returns is the best, says Santino. I agree. And no, I don't know. I don't know if it's canon, actually. I'll walk with me, Santino. We'll figure this out together. So I also have Highlander 3, The Sorcerer, which is also, Brad, also known as Highlander 3, or just Highlander, The Next Dimension.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
But this DVD calls it The Sorcerer. This movie is utterly forgettable. I'm just going to put it away now.
I can't even remember what the title is.
Yeah, nobody can remember what the title of this is. But yeah, as far as I know, the plot of this one, the plot of Highlander 3, I think the whole movie basically disregards Highlander 2, because Highlander 2 takes a big swing and like throws the story into like the far-flung future, hence the production designer of Blade Runner. And then I think this one like says, yeah, everything that movie just said is bullshit. And it does a whole thing where like the whole thing, Brad, there can be only one is the catchphrase of the entire franchise, Brad.
Mm-hmm.
There has been only one 3 times by this point. But then
Yeah.
they keep having this thing where like new immortals set foot on Earth. So then there's no longer one. So that the prize that was won by the one gets taken away from them. Where it's like this one, literally, what happens, Brad, is like in spoilers at the end of all these movies, somebody gets their head lopped off, and then there's only one. There's only one guy left, so he gets the prize. In this one, a dude wakes up in a cave. Like he was asleep. He was in hibernation. He was in suspended animation. And then the cave wall falls down. And then whatever mystical forces that imbue these people with their supernatural immortal powers says, "Oh, well, he's on the table now." Like he counts. You're not the only one anymore.
Oh,
He
okay.
woke up. So it's like yoink for the second time in the franchise. It's so fucked. But it gets better. It gets better. Highlander Endgame exclusive new cut. And look at this package, Brad.
Oh,
Look at this.
What is going on there?
Yeah, what is going on there? So we have this, which some asshole marked on it in Sharpie. And then we have, he included a receipt that I'm going to hide because that might have information on it. And then a sleeve. And so it's a 2-discer. And that's all. It's only a 2-discer.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it has this
I've
unique
never seen a case
clamshell.
like that.
I've never seen a clamshell like that before. Anyway, this is a DVD of Highlander Endgame, which you may have noticed. There's a gentleman over here who is not Christopher Lambert. That is Adrian Paul, who is the leading actor of the Highlander television series, Brad. There was a Highlander television series in the 90s, which is why I give two shits about Highlanders, because I didn't actually watch the show, Brad. I was too young to watch the show. But I have an older brother, and he has shithead friends who watch the shit out of this show, out of the Highlander TV show in the 90s. And I caught commercials for it on TNT or TBS or one of those Turner fucking networks all the fucking time. So I thought it was cool, even though I never actually saw it because I was a little kid. This movie, Highlander Endgame, bridges the gap between the movies and the television series. It is Star Trek Generations, but Highlander. Do you get that reference, Brad?
I do. That I do get.
Okay. This is the Star Trek Generations of Highlander, where we have the star of the old meets the star of the new. And they fight. And it sucks because Christopher Lambert is legally blind. That is a fact. And he is the headlining star of a series that involves sword fights periodically.
I did not know that.
You know who else is in this movie, Brad? Somebody near and dear to my heart. I don't know if we've talked about him on your. That'd be awesome. Oh man, missed opportunity. Bob Hoskins with a katana in anything.
Yeah.
I needed that in my life. I need Bob Hoskins with a bladed instrument just going ape shit. Going, ah!
That seemed pretty
cool. you sir need to work in a casting agency. Highlander. Let's get Bob Hoskins on the line.
Why not?
Donnie Yen is in this film, Brad.
Really?
This was in the early, I think, like late 90s, I think. And I think he may have been involved partially in the choreography of the swordplay in this film. So it's actually a step up for this franchise, which actually the sword fighting's always been dog shit. In a franchise about sword fighting, the sword fighting has been dog shit since day one.
Good sign.
Yeah, Donnie Yen has a couple of scenes in this one. He has a cup of coffee on the set. This was probably around the time he also did Blade 2. He has a small role in that, and also did the choreography for Blade 2.
Are these all like theatrically released movies?
Funny you should say that. So that one was
okay.
Also Edge from the WWE. Currently, I think he's known as Cope. Maybe the worst name for a wrestler I've ever heard. Cope, I think, is his name in AEW currently. He also has a cameo in that one. Speaking of not theatrically released Highlander films, Highlander: The Source, headlined by Adrian Paul, again the star of the Highlander television series. This pile is absolute dog shit. This is a bad movie night movie, Brad.
Yeah.
This is a beer and pizza movie.
Okay.
Because if
Okay.
memory serves, I think this may have debuted on the Sci-Fi Channel in this region. And it features one of the worst covers of Princes of the Universe you will ever hear, the Queen song. They cover Queen, Brad. One does not casually cover Queen unless one has just ungodly confidence in oneself. And yeah, they don't quite hit those notes. Yeah, this movie's complete dog shit. And the cinematography and the editing of it are special. Like it's a special kind of hubris and badness. Where it's like, no, no, the things that you're trying to do, the things that you think are working, are not working.
I'm just surprised it took them this many movies to reach that level.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, well, they had 2 TV series. There's another one. I don't own any of the TV series, and I haven't watched them. But there are 2 TV series. There's, I think it's called like The Raven or something. Some character got a spinoff or some shit. But yeah, this is the first of the franchise not to make theaters, and wow. Again, if you want to get drunk and eat pizza with your friends and laugh and just point and laugh at something,
sounds pretty like a good time.
Pretty good time. It sucks so bad. And finally, there's more. But wait, there's more. Wait, there's more.
Holy hell.
I have here in my hand Highlander, The Search for Vengeance. Now, Brad, you probably can't tell because it's small, but this art style is one that is familiar to you. And Santino, stay tuned. Pay attention, buddy. Don't get blackout drunk on me just yet. We're not done yet. Yoshiaki Kawajiri directed this and did the character designs. The man who made Ninja Scroll. And Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust and countless other beautiful works of Japanese animation made this. And this is a Highlander Japanese animated feature film. Utterly unmemorable. I remember not a single goddamn thing about this movie.
Oh, you had me going there. I thought you were going to say, this is the best Highlander movie. This is everything I wanted it to be.
Oh, no. See, Brad, this came out in a very special moment in history wherein every studio under the sun was getting wise to the fact that, hey, the kids like the animes. That Dragon Ball Z shit is making a splash. We got to get some of that Dragon Ball Z juice. We got to make a live action Dragon Ball movie. we gotta strike while the iron's hot. It's like, no, you're 20 years too early. If you did this now, we just got the War of the Rohirrim. Like, anime is here. It is now mainstream. It is NBA players talk about anime during post game interviews. It is here. In the early 2000s, though, we weren't there yet. Like the kids were ready, their parents weren't. But yeah, this is a half-baked, half-hearted effort. Good character designs, but good character designs do not a good animation make. So this came out in a time period when this was just a thing that was happening. Like DC and Warner Brothers also made the Batman Gotham Knight compilation movie. Have you heard about this, Brad?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
It was basically I think it all started with the Animatrix, where they hired a bunch of animation directors, mostly Japanese. I think all Japanese, actually. And they just made short films in the Matrix universe. They did the exact same thing with Batman with Warner Brothers and DC Comics. And again, had a whole bunch of Japanese animation directors come on, make short films. Marvel did the same I think they also hired Kawajiri to do like a Punisher and Black Widow and like I think X-Men and Blade, like short like OVA series. Basically, this shit was everywhere, and they all sucked. Like they were all bad. I just picked that up for the novelty. And there was also a Highlander cartoon that I don't have, but I did actually watch a little bit of when I was a little kid. I think it was like The Last of the McClouds or something. I missed a bunch of comments, so I'm going to read through them, and then we can head to the speed round because I'm out of breath. So, Santino says, I gave the Batman 6 out of 5 for a very special reason. Hey, glad to hear it, buddy. I liked the Batman. Scott says the actor that played the Green Goblin, Will I Am Dafoe, said he is interested in returning for another Spider-Man movie after No Way Home. Why? You know what they should do? And Santino might get this reference. They should get Tommy Lee Jones to play Norman Osborn, because Brad, I'm sure you care about this. In the Marvel comics, like the actual published comic books, there was an artist named Mike Deodato who would often draw from photo reference, and the Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin in the comics, the model he chose was very obviously Tommy Lee Jones. So he just drew Tommy Lee. It was kind of like a Samuel L. Jackson and Nick Fury in the Ultimate comics. They actually just used Samuel L. Jackson's likeness in the comics, and then the movies borrowed that. Scott says, I've looked on the internet last night. Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are interested in returning to doing another Spider-Man movie after No Way Home. It hasn't been confirmed yet. Fingers crossed. Okay? You really, really want to talk about Willem Dafoe? Isn't Bob Hoskins dead? Yes, he is, Santino. I think I might be becoming a Highlander fan now, says Santino. Sold. One Piece was part of the Lakers promotion. It's here. We have arrived at that moment in history. Anime is mainstream, and us old men are not in the know. Brad and I so we have to deal with all of our kids bitching at us about all these animes.
Yeah.
It's like, I have no fucking idea what a One Piece is, and I don't want to know. I'm picturing you being very Harrison Ford-esque as a father, Brad.
Probably, especially when it comes to anime.
Santino says, I just looked up the Tommy Lee Jones in the comics and they didn't even try to hide it. Yeah, they did not. Mike Deodato, I think he did that for Dark Avengers, and maybe, I think it was Thunderbolts, maybe. I think that was a big part of it too. Like, I really like those comics. I miss those comics. Anyway, I think that's about it as far as show and tell goes, like in our proper back and forth format here. Sorry for commandeering things there at the end, Brad, but
no, you're good, man.
This way I knocked out most of my shit in one go. So now comes the part of the program, folks, where we head into the speed round, wherein Brad and I, which will take about half an hour, where Brad and I will just kind of skim over all the titles that we set aside today, but did not actually talk about. So, Brad, do you want to go first, or should I?
I can go first. I can give you a little reprieve.
Thank you. You're a good friend.
I'll start with, I've got a TV series. I've got all 3 seasons of Hannibal, which I'm a pretty big fan of Hannibal Lecter, the character, the movies. I've even read the novels, and I like the show a lot. I think Mads Mikkelsen is awesome in it, and it's cool to see how they adapt the books, what they have to change and work around because of copyright issues, and just the amount of gore they're able to put on network TV is pretty crazy. So,
how'd they handle Verger's sister, or did they handle Verger's sister?
She is in the show. I'm trying to remember what happens to her in the movie or the books that they would have to handle.
The way she, spoilers, handles him at the conclusion of his story in the novel is, well, one, she doesn't exist in the movie. Involves an eel, if memory serves.
I want to say,
and a cattle prod, strategically placed.
I feel like the eel might be in the show, maybe not the cattle prod. I can't remember. It's been a while. I need to go back and rewatch it. But yeah, she is in the show.
Great. I mean, she was a very interesting character in the book. I mean, a lot of people point to that book as being pretty disgusting for the sake of being disgusting. I enjoyed my time with those books. I listened to them like via audiobook for research for the podcast. It was enjoyable. I actually wish I had just read them, but I didn't have time. I had to go. My brother really likes Hannibal. He and his wife both really like that one.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, really, I think it's only season 3 that directly adapts the book, from what I remember, because a lot of the first 2 seasons is just like the relationship between Will Graham and Hannibal, whereas season 3 directly adapts the novels Hannibal and Red Dragon. Not Silence of the Lambs because they couldn't get the rights to that, but
Well, also it may be better. Just don't.
yeah, yeah, because they did do a Clarice TV series,
Yeah, they did. That's
and
right.
I kind of forgot about it. I watched a couple episodes and it wasn't that great.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything. Like
Yeah,
I'm surprised I even remember that happened. But yeah, I mean Hannibal and Red Dragon are those aren't the sacred cows that Silence of the Lambs is. Like
yeah.
just maybe don't need we don't need that.
I got a movie here I haven't watched, but I'm excited to watch. It's I might mispronounce this. It's Herencia Diabolica. Herencia Diabolica, which is um put out through the Vinegar Syndrome sub-label of, I think it's Degausser Video. Yes, Degausser Video. Um Super hyped for this one because my buddy Charlie keyed me into this movie. It's basically Mexico's version of Child's Play,
Oh
and
shit.
he really liked a GIF of this from this movie. There, like a reveal regarding the doll that comes to life, played by a little person, and it's a pretty great GIF. And I want to watch it just because it's, you know, I'm not as clued into a lot of these older, really obscure 80s and 90s horror movies. Before they're released by Vinegar Syndrome, I kind of like learned of them when they announced them.
Yeah.
And this was one where it's like, oh, I actually know what that is. And I was very excited about it. So had to pick that up.
Looks like a mini Ronald McDonald is coming after some lady.
Kind of, yeah, yeah. Very interesting design choices. We have Paul Schrader's Hardcore.
Oh, turn it
Which
off.
yep, classic. And I think I did watch this for Movie Roulette on my show not too long ago. We have the film. I'm not gonna try to pronounce that name. I will say it's from the Criterion Collection. It's House, or is it Hausu? Is that how they
Yeah.
say the
Halsu.
Hausu? Um, which is a lot of fun. Have you seen this, Trevor?
I know its reputation, but no, I actually haven't.
Yeah, it's great. It's a lot of fun. Definitely recommend checking it out. I
Yeah.
believe it has a 4. This is just the Blu-ray, but I think it has a 4K now.
I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, the gimmick of that one is that it was scripted by a child.
Yeah, yep. 4K of The Hills Have Eyes, the original Wes Craven's The Hills Have Eyes, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but it is, a classic. Maybe not an amazing classic, but certainly influential in some ways.
Mhm.
And it stars the great Dee Wallace, so I have to have it for that reason.
Oh yeah, yeah. Cinema's greatest mom.
Yep, yep. We have a movie that you and I talked about on my show, I believe, The Hurricane Heist.
Hey, yeah, in
Yes.
4K.
Oh yeah. When we
Nice.
reviewed this, I think I don't know if I bought it used. It does have a little damage. I think I might have bought it used, maybe. I don't know, but I do had to buy it on 4K. And yeah, it's not great, but I have a little soft spot for it. I don't know. It's fun trash.
Thank you for bringing that movie into my life. The Hurricane
Yes.
Heist made my life complete.
Absolutely. We have the House on Haunted Hill remake, which I'm a big fan of this movie. I mean,
Me
it's not
too.
amazing, but like I don't know. I watched it a lot when I was younger, and I've just got such a soft spot for it. I think it's just. I mean, I've seen the original, but this one is just kind of, you know, just takes the premise a little further, and I love Jeffrey Rush in it. Um, the theme park at opening stuff is some of my favorite too.
It's a fun
Even
swerve, yeah.
I know, even though I think I'm sure I've mentioned this, it makes no sense in any sort of reality that this could happen.
No, no, of course not. But not the style of that one.
Yeah.
Moment in time where it's like this is movies felt like Marilyn Manson was kind of a thing. Like
Yeah.
music videos were kind of aggressive at this point in time. The way it's shot and cut and lit and everything, it's very unique.
But I love the Manson needle drop in here. I think it's great. I think it actually works.
Actually, the soundtrack for that movie sticks with me. There's a particular point, it's been so long since I've seen it, but I remember there's a particular music cue in there that I always really, really liked. A particular bass line that kicks in during a transitional sequence that really, really worked for me. That's another, like, put that right there next to Small Soldiers and Monkey Bone as like something like a retro review for your show,
Yeah.
because I also really enjoyed that. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. I saw Chris Kattan at a local comedy club, and I should have taken my Blu-ray and seen if he would sign it. Didn't think about it.
Brad, real quick, have you played a PS2 era video game called The Suffering?
No.
I think it's been re-released on like PC since then. Um, it owes a lot to that movie.
Oh,
Like
okay.
the projector reel thing and like the stuttering ghosts kind of thing. It's an action game, but it's like legitimately trying to be a bit of a horror game at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It takes place in a prison with Stan Winston actually designed the monsters in it.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, it's a good time.
I'm intrigued.
Maybe look it up or something.
Yeah. The Suffering?
The Suffering. Yeah.
I'll have to look into that. I have A History of Violence, David
Hey,
Cronenberg movie.
Crony.
Classic William Hurt soundboard inclusion on this as well. And I have Hannah, the Joe Wright film, Joe Wright action movie. Which I don't know. Have I ever talked to you about this? Do you like this flick? Because I like it quite a bit.
No, actually, you've never mentioned it.
It's been a while. Have you seen it?
No,
I guess
no, I haven't.
Really?
I know of it. I mean, it's a little girl taught to kill people, right?
Yeah. There's some. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it, so maybe it wouldn't hold up as well as I remember. But I remember some pretty good action in this one,
Huh.
and I really like the direction. It's got to be up there as one of my favorite Joe Wright movies.
I seem to remember a lot of killer girl movies coming out around that time.
Yeah, that
like
was
Orphan and that one, and then there was I mean, not girl, but like Salt was also another like lady headline action film. Just a lot of ladies killing people in the 2000s.
Yeah. Hey, I love it. I'm here for it. But that's it. That's all. I mean, that's not every H I have, but that's all the ones I grabbed.
Scott has a thing about dinosaurs and lizards. Just making you aware of that, Brad. So okay, speed round for me. So I'll get your vomit out there quick. So we're gonna start with DVDs. Like I said, I have more of these than I have Blu-rays. I think when it comes to the H category, I will try to be brief, being as it's already been a long one. So I have here a DVD which I bought for $2, just for shits and giggles, out of curiosity, because I when it comes to box office flops, like historically bad movies, I'm intrigued. I want to know. I got to know. I really want to know what the fuck happened. Hudson Hawk, Brad.
Oh yeah.
Do you know Hudson Hawk?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I know it was a flop.
Big flop. Bad movie. Got a Nintendo game though. It got a NES game adaptation. Yeah, Hudson Hawk is bad. Like it's straight up just it's confused. Do you know Leonard Part 6, Brad?
I do know the name, but I don't know much about it.
Well, it stars confirmed bad person Bill Cosby.
That's right. Yes.
And the gimmick is it's the sixth entry of a franchise that technically doesn't exist, but the contents of the film, the narrative of the film, is structured as if it does. And it's this like out there concept with just wild ass backwards ideas, just throwing shit at the wall, trying to make something. There's a plot involving lobsters being used to murder people, using the word quellish is what is the trigger word for the lobsters. This is a thing that's in a movie. Yeah, it's that level of bad. Hudson Hawk is that level of bad. Hercules and the Adventures of Hercules. He only goes on an adventure in one of these films, starring Lou Ferrigno. These are Italian productions. Excuse me. These are Canon films that were probably trying to capitalize on the Italian film market. Lou Ferrigno is dubbed in these movies. They are Canon films, so they feature robots because that's a thing they like to do in Canon films. terrible in a lot of respects, but very, very cute. Like I could totally see like a little kid really enjoying those. There's a part, Brad, where he kills a bear and he throws it into orbit and
Nice.
creates the Big Dipper with the bear
Aw,
corpse. He throws it
cool.
into space. Yeah,
Cute.
that's what you're in for. They're fun. I enjoy those actually. $6.99. I overpaid. Harakiri. This is a Japanese samurai film. This is actually a remake. This is from director Takashi Miike. He was doing a lot of samurai films around the time this one came out. He also did 13 Assassins, which was also a remake, um, roughly around the same time period. I think I prefer 13 Assassins, but Harakiri was good. I liked it. This one, the cover art will lie to you, being as it has an F on the cover. But this is Fighting Spirit Champion Road TV special. This is a DVD of Hajime no Ippo, which in Japanese means the first step. This is a anime about boxing that is something I talk about a lot, so I won't bore you all with that now. But been a fan of Ippo since I was like 14 years old, and the comic started in 1989 and persists to this very day. You can actually find that show and probably that movie on Netflix right now. And I actually got my fiance to start watching it with me, although we seem to have stalled in recent days. But it is like one of the few anime that I actually have an affinity for and like will continue to watch if they continue to make it, which they're currently not. But should they make another season of it, I'm watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Heart of Dragon, $4.99 from Half Price Books. Heart of Dragon.
Yep.
This is a lesser Jackie Chan film, which features an unfortunate subplot in which Sammo Hung plays a mentally challenged older brother. It's Rain Man with martial arts. It's
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable. Uh, really good action finale though. Like I said, Hong Kong movies, they go ape shit. Like they do everything. So it's like you have the Rain Man, but we got to end it with martial arts, and the martial arts at the end of that one are great. Headshot. I think this might be on Netflix, but this is an Indonesian film from Timo Chayanto, Brad,
Mm.
who I think recently announced The Shadow Strays Part 2 is official. It's
All
going to
right.
happen. So this is an early film from Timo Chayanto, I think, when I think he was part of a duo, like a directing duo. He's since, I think, become a solo act, but this is a film he did with Iko Uwais, and Sonny Pang is in this. I think he also has a role in Timo's upcoming Nobody 2. I think he might be in there. But yeah, Headshot's it's pretty good. I bought the DVD because that was the only thing available to me.
Mm-hmm.
Heavy Metal and Heavy Metal 2000, $9.99 from Half Price Books. Santino comments: Is that the guy from the Raid movies? Yes, Santino. Iko Uwais is the lead actor from the Raid and the Raid 2. Hell Hath No Fury, and that's Daniel Bernhardt, who is a frequent collaborator with 8711/87 North, Chad Stahelski, and David Leitch. This movie is directed by Jesse V. Johnson, or Jesse Johnson, frequent collaborator with Scott Adkins. Scott Adkins is not featured in this film, but I like Jesse Johnson enough that I'll just check out what he's doing independent of his ventures with Scott Adkins. So that was a curiosity pick. It wasn't great, but it's a World War II action movie. The Hunt. This was an early movie I watched with my now fiance when we were still like early days dating. I like Betty Gilpin. I think she's very funny. I think she's very talented.
Yeah.
I haven't seen her in that much, but every time I've seen her, she's made an impression. She made an impression in Stuber, and nobody remembers Stuber. Speaking of Stuber, Eco Wise Santino is also in Stuber.
There we go.
Connections, revolutions. I'm good at this game. The Host, from director Bong Joon-ho. Connections, revolutions. He just had a film come out like a week ago, Brad.
Yeah.
Mickey 17. Hobo with a Shotgun, from director Jason Eisner. This movie is very Canadian as far as I can tell, being as a Trailer Park Boy is in the cast at one point. I like this. I like Hobo with a Shotgun. I would actually like to see this director do other things. I don't know that he has. Helios. This is a Hong Kong, China, maybe Taiwan, and Korea co-production. Those are a lot of Asian men and women who I'm sure you don't know, Brad. But trust me when I say they are all bankable, noteworthy names and faces. This movie ends on a sequel tease. There has been no sequel. That's all you need to know. Yeah, we love when we unite all these nations to make this grossly over-budgeted film, and it doesn't do well. I was curious though. I had to know, and I don't remember a goddamn thing from it except for Nick Chung. I remember Nick Chung getting a fist fight with a really skinny gal who beats the fuck out of him, and it's like, damn, that didn't go how I thought it was going to go. I mean, it was entertaining. Michael Mann's Heat. I have the director's definitive edition, which I think it's just aesthetic, right, Brad? There's no cuts to the movie. It's just the way it looks or sounds, something like that.
I think so, as far as I know.
Yeah, this came out before the 4K of it, so
yeah,
that's what I have. That's what I'm not upgrading it. I like Heat, but not enough to buy it a second time. Haywire, featuring the canceled one, as far as I know, like currently works for the Daily Wire, Gina Carano. This, speaking of connections, Steven Soderbergh's Haywire just had a movie, and in Soderberghian fashion has at least 2 more movies in the pipe or some shit. This movie is a vehicle for Gina Carano, and these are all big fucking names. It's an ensemble cast of some renown. As far as I can tell, I think Soderbergh just like saw her at a MMA fight. She wasn't in the UFC, but she did MMA back in the day. I think he like saw her fight and said, "I'm going to make her a movie," and he did, and it's actually a halfway decent spy thriller. And the throwdown that she has with Michael Fassbender in the middle of it is it's good. It's real good.
Yeah.
But yeah, she works for the Daily Wire now, so confirmed bad person as far as I can tell. I've Ard Target. We did Hard Target 2, Ard Target with JCVD. Connections, Brad. John Woo's first American film. Ard Target. And we're going to go out on a bang with Hydra, which I love this cover. I love this cover art so much. That's art right there. This is from a director who I've said countless times on many, many podcasts. I would love to devote a month to spotlighting. I don't think I can get Kyle to get on board with that, though, so it's probably never going to happen. This is from Keita Amemiya, who is a Japanese filmmaker who works in the tokusatsu genre, which is, I think, Power Rangers. It's Power Rangers, it's Ultraman, it's Kamen Rider. He's done Kamen Rider films. He works mostly in that genre. I love his art. I love his aesthetics. I have his art books on my shelf. I flip through them frequently because I like looking at them. And this was a film that he made that is fine, but it looks great. I like the costumes. I like the sets. I like I like that they do Peter Jackson shit with the effects, where it's like, we're putting stop motion in this movie. We're doing some Gandalf shit in this movie. We're going to do every effect that we know how to do in this movie. But yeah, cool stuff. And I missed a bunch of comments. So Santino asks, that's in the middle of the cover. I don't know what you're talking about. I love that series. I like those shoes. That's my favorite Ben Affleck Batman line, Brad. To me, that was the best thing he did in Batman versus Superman. Was, I like those shoes. Yeah. Drunk Affleck is the best Affleck.
Oh yeah.
Love that movie. Best tease of all. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry, I missed all the context. I was rambling. But thank you for being here, Santino. We appreciate you. But yeah, that's it. That's all the H's. That's literally all the H's. So I guess now we've reached the end of the road. So thank you so much for joining me tonight, Brad. We've been talking for a very long time,
Hey,
like 3.5 hours.
We have to commit to it, and we've committed to it. I think it's been great.
I had a blast. I mean, I entertained myself, so
Yeah. Good timing. I just ran out of Dr. Pepper, so perfect timing.
that means you just shut the fuck down.
Yeah, I'm out of gas. I'm out of fuel.
All right. Well, you're on the East Coast, so it's crazy fucking late over there, I'm sure. So I'm gonna let you get back to your evening, but before we go, Brad, would you care to let our listeners and all 4 of our viewers, know where they can find you and your super awesome podcast?
Yeah, so it's the Cinema Speak podcast. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, any podcasting platform. Just search Cinema Speak. We're on Twitter at the Cinema Speak, Instagram Cinema Speak Podcast, and also on YouTube as Cinema Speak. And you can find us on the web at cinemaspeak.libsyn.com.
Thank you for that, Brad. Do you have any YouTube stuff in the pipe?
Not at the moment, but I got to get back on it. I got to start thinking of some ideas.
Yeah. Like I offer every time. If you need help, I'm here for you.
Yep.
But yeah, as for myself and catching up on cinema, you're watching it or listening to it, so you probably know where to find it. But we are available on pretty much every podcasting platform you can imagine. So fucking Google it. And other than that, I do freelance work as an editor for the Red Cow Arcade / Red Cow Entertainment YouTube channel. So if you're a fan of theirs and you're subscribed to the Patreon or part of their Discord, I am in there as Catching Up on Cinema. So if you want to, give me a poke. I'll probably respond, maybe. And yeah, that's largely where you can find me. I am on the social medias and stuff, but just don't bother. It's just not worth it. So yeah, Catching Up on Cinema. Like, share, subscribe, all that business. And hey, we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Thank you.